A second season for a show that has been way too long since the first. Like, Seven Deadly Sins is finally back. It's been, I'd like to say, 3 or 4 years now since we last seen it, if we're not including like the little Signs of Holy War stuff, and there's quite a bit to get into this episode, but it's not more with the content that was happening in the actual episode. It was more the start of it and how they've retconned the entire ending of season 1 to make sense. And by the way, Signs of Holy War, yeah, that just don't count. That's just there, and all of it was a dream. Yes, everything that you've heard about Signs of Holy War and everything to do straight after Hendrickson's like defeat, that's all like just was Elizabeth's dream. They just addressed this, that this was like a premonition that she was having, that this was like some sort of dream where it was like, you know, oh, like King and Ban, that they were gonna leave, and it was like, oh, this is, I think this is all gonna be happening, but it's its own different variant, and I'm there like, alright, that's one way to do it. Like, or it was either that, or you could just do what Blue Exorcist did, where they had the same thing as well, where they changed the ending a little bit. Well, clearly the whole last arc was like complete filler, and they couldn't go back from that. Same with like Claymore, and Blue Exorcist handled it with that last half never happened. Straight after the Amaimon fight, that's where it stopped, like right there. So it is absolutely... It was a bit baffling to think, yeah, everything that you've seen from that part, and then that little mini-series, yeah, that just meant nothing. And like all these nice little character modes, which is weird because they add stuff from the manga in there, kind of, with like some stuff with some characters, so it feels weird when you are going to be missing a few things, but then again, like, it is like right after that arc, it is this incredibly slow period before we get built up, and I think like the anime addressed that more because it was like people want to get straight into like knowing about the Ten Commandments, and boy, well, at the end of the episode you get to see that massive teaser for it. So not honestly, there was not a lot too much to say about this episode for the most part. It was kind of like, hey, like, you know, like they're getting their rewards and everything, apart from the big thing of like the premonition was right. Ban is leading the Seven Deadly Sins, and he's like, I'm serious about this, Captain. And from what we get to hear about him, he's like, I am going straight to the Fairy King's Forest, and clearly it has something to do with Elaine, as he's like kind of mentioning. And then we see King, and King's like, I know you care for my sister, but I'm going as well. So we're already down a couple of people already. Like, King and Ban are like, they're pretty strong people, and it's like, we just lost like 2 heavy hitters as they go onto their own little journey. Like, Ban's like, not a self-discovery, but he's just wanting to find some answers or seeing like what he can do for the most part. So like that's very interesting that he had that, and especially it makes more sense after like the huge rivalry or like kind of like the deal that he had at the end of like season 1 with like that goddess trying to like bargain with him. So that was the kind of thing, and it's like, no, I don't want Ban to leave, he's my favorite character. Although like as you see him immediately disappear, it's like, I will say the opening kind of spoils some of this stuff, I will say that much. Like, that was a little bit like, oh, really? They're gonna like just spoil who's coming along with them? But, you know, straight up, it's like, that's just how it is. And I feel like with how the pacing of like how they're just going through chapters, it made sense. It's like, yeah, you're just gonna find out soon enough, like in like an episode or two, for the most part. One thing that I actually found like very interesting is like, they didn't spice anything up. It was really just straight from everything. Like, it was just straight from the manga. There wasn't any real flashiness to this episode, which was like, I feel that they're really saving up for like other stuff. Not to mention, well, there is a movie in production as well, so they're probably stretching that team right there. So I felt like for like I compared this by rewatching episode 1 of the original series, and I was thinking like, that episode like had way much more like kind of like flashiness, like production, but then again it had a much, you're talking about first chapter compared to a slow build up to a next arc. So it would have been nice if they did something a little bit flashy with that like fight, because the whole real kind of a conflict for Meliodas in the group was like they're getting their awards and three asshole knights, like the Knights of Palladius Sky, or whatever the fuck they were called. They're spoiler alert, they're irrelevant trash. They're like, oh, we don't accept it because we were on the other side of the border protecting so and so from there, and it's like we don't trust that you guys were the real ones to beat them down. It's like, oh, all right then. Meliodas just breaks one of the dude's fingers all around, and like as soon as the guy tries to headbutt him, he's like, just does the Beerus flick, and it's like, well, satisfied. And this is the weird thing with like Hawk. They decided to give Hawk to be the scouter for the most part, where he's got a power level scouter now, and this is the weirdest thing as well. When this was introduced in the manga, it was like, we're gonna give power levels now to the series where you have force, spirit, you know, magic, and like overall combat prowess, and I'm like, all right, it felt like we didn't need that. It felt like a very weird addition, and they still mention it to this day, but I'm always still weirded out by it. It just feels like a way to like end a chapter where it's like, oh my god, you know, like, oh, over 9,000 kind of crap, like all that stuff that's going on, and we find out that every single member of the of the Seven Deadly Sins is over 3,000. Hawk is like 30, 40, like, which is like, wow, just get shitted on like Hawk, because yeah, I will not lie though, he was annoying as fuck in this episode. I don't know, it's like, I personally didn't mind him in the first season, or even in the little spin-off show. I don't know what it is. Every time Hawk was on screen this episode, I fucking hated him. He would not shut up. And I was like, okay, Hawk, we get it. Just stop. I get it. It's so weird. I don't know what, if maybe it was just like maybe it was just his dialogue. It's been a while since I've read those chapters. But yeah, the honest ending of this episode is that we get to see that, hey, Hendrickson's still alive, and so is Dreyfus, and he goes straight up and summons with like by using like Meliodas' hilt sword, and he summons some of the most powerfulest demons that we know, known as the Ten Commandments. And you guys can probably notice as well when you saw the ending of that episode, Meliodas was pretty pissed. He noticed that immediately, and he knows who's like coming out of that portal straight there. And what we get to see are some people, like as one person that looks like Meliodas a lot. So you're thinking right there, I wonder what that's all about. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave that for when that time's go. But I think a lot of people can put the pieces down together, and if like you've read the manga, you know who the hell these people are anyway, for the most part. But I think it was a fine episode. But I felt like it's the same thing I heard. This was the same issue with like season 2 of Overlord and a lot of season 2 of most shows. It just wasn't that bombastic of a return. It was like, you feel like you've waited this long. You're like, yeah, I can't wait to get into it. And it kind of, not flaccid, but it just felt a little weak for the most part. Like, there was like a nice thing that we got interested into this new power level stuff. We also get to see the whole thing with Barn leaving, although I didn't feel that dramatic. They just said, yeah, I'm leaving. Alright, bye. Like, it kind of felt like that. It was like a really weird, and then not to mention this whole premonition about the Ten Commandments, and then they finally appear, and that was more the stinger and the part important. Plus that, it's like there wasn't really anything too fancy going on in this episode, but then again, I think that's just because they're saving it for later time. So overall, pretty goddamn like enjoyable episode. Like, I did enjoy it, but it wasn't amazing, it wasn't great or anything like that. Most a 6, it was fine to a 5. It was honestly like very weak compared to other shows and all that starting off. But overall, I want to know what you guys think. I'm happy regardless of what to have Sins back, and I'm looking forward to them adapting some of my favorite moments from this arc. So cannot wait for that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I feel like there's one other thing left to address though, and that's going to be talking about whether or not continuing Sins because of a great issue, and that's the fact that for some odd reason Netflix is not simulcasting this show at all. They're doing that with Violet Evergarden. That's gonna be a weird thing to really go through, because this was in fan subs, and those fan subs like translations were fucking garbage. It was 110% trash. Like, it was full of mistranslations, full of just spelling errors. It honestly reminded me of myself when I try and write something up, and I'm like, this yeah, like people are being names are being spelt wrong. That it was just saying it was a lot of like just mishandled stuff out there, like horrible font crap, and just all the works and all that you guys see on there. So it's just like Netflix is fine. You could just release the whole show like at some point, but just please, like I feel like you really should have like had at least this one simulcasted. Like it's a popular show and it just didn't. I don't know what it is, whether or not it's something to do with the studios behind it, whether it wasn't set in stone. That really just was like sucks to hear. And we're gonna have the same situation where season 1 is going to, like, it took forever to come out on like DVD and Blu-ray, and it's gonna be the same thing for season 2, and it's gonna be the same for when it arrives on Netflix. So yeah, that's sucks to hear, but like let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below of the episode. But that's all from me, and I'll see you guys though next time.